Welcome to podcast number 227. Rich, let's go in to get your meat. Farmer Phil's not here, so we're just going inside, guys.
So it doesn't seem like 5 minutes since I was here the last episode.
Funny that.
So here it is, the little Vitesse. I clocked this on the weekend as well. It's looking very smart. I love the colour. It's a beautiful shade of blue, isn't it?
It's, I think, powder blue, duck egg blue.
Yeah, maybe powder blue sounds more romantic.
Yeah.
And does it zip along nicely?
It is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a wonderful looking little machine. I could drive something like that. Maybe in my dotage. When I get to Farmer Phil's age, I might sort of think about getting a sporty little car like this.
Rich, this goes fast. You can't even drive your own car at any speed worth bothering to have an engine in it.
Speed kills, Hev.
Okay, here we go. So, in the freezer.
Oh, here we go. Gosh, look at all this beef. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Phil, there's loads of beef in this freezer.
Now, Rich, what would you like?
Well, I don't.
Now, I'm going to leave your conscience to choose.
On balance, what do you think? Well, I'm going to suggest, given that you offered.
I think you choose
I'm going to suggest
you
give me something that might be suited to Sarah cooking a feast.
Oh, right, okay.
So it doesn't necessarily need to be anything. And bearing in mind, we need to do a fair swap.
Yes, but the thing is, you can always bring me some... You can always bring me some fish.
I could always bring you some fish.
Can't you?
Well, if it had been less time catching that bantam, unfortunately, the amount of catching that bantam, I broke my net. I broke the hen house.
Neck?
No, net. Trying to catch it. I broke the hen house, and I've got an escapee cockerel off the back of it all. And so it took slightly more time than I imagined it might do.
I thought you were a little nervous about letting it out.
I've got some fishes in the freezer. In fact, what I've got in the freezer are loads of the best tasting fish you could ever imagine eating, namely turbot.
Right, so, you can pick whatever you like. What would you like?
Well, you pick whatever.
No.
I don't feel as I should.
The people that had the beef before have all phoned up to have the beef again.
Right,
so that's a good sign, isn't it?
That is encouraging, yeah. No, this will be the first time I've tried any Farmer Phil's beef. It'll be a whole new experience, so I'll be able to give a good, honest feedback after we've feasted on said beast.
Now, the girls have just left picking the valerian.
So, I noticed one of the guys just coming out and chopping some of the valerian from the walls. I mean, this time of year, there's masses of it.
Because that's a wildflower, isn't it?
It is a wildflower. I'm not entirely sure that it's a kind of indigenous to Britain, but it's been around for a long time now, and you do practically see it everywhere.
And it smells of cat
It spreads so easily.
Cat wee.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Let's have a smell.
But hopefully that won't affect their bouquet.
Not a huge scent, really, all told.
But it'll be all right in a
But it's quite happy. But it does tend to undermine walls and things like that because its root swells to such an extent that it does kind of break out mortar. So over the years, it could be a problem. You see what it's doing here? You see under there?
Yeah.
You see how it's lifted the top of that wall up?
Yeah, it's lifted the bricks up and left what?
There must be a couple of inches gap. You know, whereas look what's happened is it's swollen up. And progressively, it's just expanded to such an extent, has that kind of almost latent power to lift the render above it.
The thing is, Rich, I was really enjoying gardening until you came, and now you've given me 2 jobs. So now,
what more jobs?
Well, I was relaxing with the garden and just doing a bit of, this and that. And now I've got to chop down 4 flipping great trees.
Yeah.
And now I've got to get the valerian out of the wall.
I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Okay.
The trees, the willows, we talked about last week, take those out of the equation. Yeah, well, Farmer Phil, it would do him good anyway, knock some weight off the old boy.
Exactly.
And this, the valerian is wonderful because it does make space for nature. It does make more cavities in this wall. So this wall isn't retaining anything. It's not structurally significant. You see the wonderful hollow stems of this valerian. I mean, that's a fabulous thing. I've used valerian stems for stuffing bee boxes and things like that. So that cracking little diameter, about 6 mil diameter, the base of the stem is just a job for a little red mason bee.
Now then, it goes all woody, and I left it all woody all winter, and then when this new growth came, I hacked out the wood from underneath.
Yeah.
When should you do that?
That's a perfectly sensible time to do it. Valerian is something that you can hack relentlessly, and it keeps on coming back. It doesn't seem to matter how you take it out of the equation, it will keep on growing like mad. So I wouldn't really worry about it. What I tend to do with the Valerian at ours, because like here, it just goes crackers everywhere, is cut it quickly so that it doesn't seed, and the flower is there to support the various Lepidoptera that really seem to enjoy it. And you often get those, those...
what Lepidoptera?
What are they called? Those hummingbird hawk moths.
Oh, yes, they've been on here.
Because you've seen those, they've been here,
yes.
and they love valerian. They love it. And so you've got this wonderfully cylindrical globe flower, really, of a kind of multitude of little florets. And you've got this kind of creature that hovers just there, animating that whole space. It's a wonderful thing. So I tend to leave the flowers just as they're about to go over and then cut it to stop it seeding and going everywhere and growing like mad.
I see. Well, so you cut it down here at the base?
Just take it off at the base, or, or just above it.
Oh, OK.
Yeah, so that's good. But it does make... It does have a shelf life as well, doesn't it, as a cut flower?
Oh, it lasts really well.
So it's working quite well in this setting.
Yeah, so we don't mind
making a few quid out of your garden as well.
Look at that valerian on the wall. Michael says there must be 50 feet of it, but he's exaggerating. It's just a few blooms.
It's gotta be.
But with delphs at over £1 a stem,
yeah, just the job. The beauty of that wall is that it is an old stone wall, and it is made, how many years ago do you suppose?
I reckon probably 1800.
Yeah,
something like
longer
that.
Than Phil's been alive.
Yes, definitely
so
longer than that.
You know, it's incredibly old. And what makes a wall is all the vegetation that's growing on it, really. You know, folks are obsessed with cleaning out the little bits of moss and grass and, you know, sedums and things like that, all those little succulents that think, well, I can get in there, I can just make a home for myself. I need to be scratched out by some sort of unfortunate
whose fault
troll.
that is, though, don't you?
No, doesn't that look wonderful, all that moss growing on it and the valerian just spouting out of the top?
Yeah, but you know whose fault it is.
No, whose fault is it?
It's
is
Mr.
it just
Pavia,
society
man.
generally?
No,
sort of...
it's Pavia companies. You know those ones that make you have your bricks at different angles?
Yeah,
I think Michael's got some of those, actually.
Yeah.
And they like Tesco's car park. And they don't understand that you need all this lovely liching and all these things
Look
growing
at this.
on
I mean, look at this amazing lichen on the top here. And there's a little billbug. You see that little guy? And if it weren't for... There's
his baby?
There's a baby pill.
Oh, no, he's at him.
Oh, there he goes. He's obviously got... That's interesting. What's going on there? I wonder if he's going to mate it. I don't think they're carnivorous pillbugs.
Rich, if he has mated that pillbug, that's like a terrier mating a Great Dane.
That's he's off now, scuttling away. Look, do you know the Latin name? I've never bothered to try to remember the scientific name for most of these things, but this is one that's really easy to remember because it's Armadillidium vulgar.
Vulgar.
Well, just
we
meaning
had
common, but that's,
vulgar.
it feels vulgar. But this Armadillidium, so it does look like a little armadillo.
What have we got here, Rich?
That's something else. It's another creature of sorts.
Something
else. I
else.
have no idea what that is.
But you're an expert, and look how beautiful
we're here,
it is.
right? I'm definitely not an expert. We're here looking at this wall that's been built by somebody that is housing and providing opportunities for a plethora of interest, really. We can enjoy the space, but if we're able to change a few mindsets along the way, just allow things to flourish, isn't that so much more interesting?
Absolutely. I love the look of this wall, but gorgeous. I love the fact that you don't have to do anything to it. That's the thing.
Well, again, you see, that's right. Yeah. We kind of make work for ourselves, don't we, human beings?
What's the matter with us? Pavia man, ban him. OK, so we're walking back towards the front door now, just passing by the lavender, which I have weeded, but some weeds have got the better of me. Darn it.
Yeah, they do that. There's a few grasses just poking their heads above the rooftop of the lavender.
Yeah. And that wisteria that's on the front of the house is just a home for all those chattering birds.
Yeah. Wisteria is a fantastic plant. It's quite gorgeous. You know, I've got a wisteria on the back of our place that I bought from one of the show gardens at Chelsea.
Yeah.
One of the Chelsea things that we did years ago. And they break down their gardens, they're selling off all the stock, and I bought this thing for 20 quid. So that was a bargain in itself, but to get it from a gold medal show garden at Chelsea is quite fun. And it's brilliant because you can put it in really poor soil and it seems to do better off the back of really impoverished ground adjacent to a building than it would if it was in really good soil.
Should we have a moment of silence and listen to what's going on at Wiggly Wigglers? We've got birds on the one side, and then this is our favourite. This is Ron.
Ron.
So Ron sings all the time,
Does
right?
he?
Yeah, he gets on a theme. So sometimes it's Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. Then it moves on to Oh, What a Beautiful Morning.
Yeah.
And then he starts whistling. And he keeps us all happy. So we've got the windows opening. Here he goes. In his work.
He's a happy chap, isn't he?
He is a
He is
happy chap.
definitely a half, a pint half full chap. Rather than, it is nice.
Yeah, but he's wrecked
just
this
sort of
podcast.
Makes
He's wrecked it.
makes the day. Makes the day. Yeah.
Hello, Ron. So we're just going to go up to the house because, as usual, the starling box has been inhabited, and they're so cheeky. It's right by the kitchen, and they have to pop, less than 10 metres to get their tea, which is mealworms.
Yeah.
So they go from there to there.
So they're stuffing their brood. Can we hear the little starlings?
Don't know whether they've fled.
Are they sort of quiet? Are they in there now?
They were on Sunday. Oh, are you knocking on me? Is that you?
Did something answer me then?
I don't know. Go on, do it again.
No, it's all quiet. There doesn't seem to be anybody at home. Have they fled?
I don't know.
Have you seen little
I've
pockets
seen them
of brown
poking
starlings?
their heads out.
Right.
So whether or not they've now gone...
It's a great place, isn't it, for starlings? And that nest box, how big do you reckon that is? Well, that's about sort of 14 inches by maybe 6 inches, something like that.
And for our European listeners?
Difficult to say. Maybe
40 centimetres by...
maybe slightly more. Maybe 60 centimetres by 20 centimetres.
Exactly.
Something like that.
By 15 centimetres.
Exactly. Well.
Yes.
But it is. And how big that hole is? What? That's maybe 1.5 inches aperture. Yeah. So that's absolutely fine. Something that maybe 7 foot off the ground.
Let's see.
Maybe 7 foot.
I'm 5 foot and
about,
half an inch.
Yeah, it's about 5 foot above you. So yeah, 7 foot above the ground.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. And that's nice to be able to see the birds to-ing and fro-ing, really. And it's safe enough, the cat can't get at them. And the forage is, as you say, 10
right
10
on their
metres away.
doorstep. And they've got the pond. Do starlings use ponds?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they love bathing. And you can often see big family groups all together fluttering away at the edge of a pond. I mean, all birds really like bathing. It's very important for them. And that pond actually really lends itself to bird life because it's so shallow and has such wonderfully shallow sloping banks. Anything can get in there and flap away to its heart's content to get rid of all those ticks and mites and things like that.
I've got a load of plants left over from when Alison took the plants back. She brings them when we need them rather than us stock them.
Right.
So I'm going to pop those all the way around the edge.
Yeah.
Where do you think? Near those trees?
I think away from where they're likely to get trampled by the cows, which that'll be the biggest challenge. Because whilst there aren't many cows in there are a couple, aren't there?
Yeah.
Therein lies the challenge, really.
And the pigs will be coming in.
What it is.
I think it's 5 weeks before the pigs come. They won't eat the plants, will they?
They're little rotivators,
They won't
aren't they?
mooch
They'll just
through the mud.
rotivate that whole patch. In fact, it'll look quite different after they've been in there for a couple of months.
Right, let's call in on the sparrows. And then you can check out my tomatos.
Check out your...
Tomatoes. Tell me.
Is that a euphemism for...
I don't know. So this has been a hive of activity.
Yeah. Sparrow terrace is a gorgeous thing, isn't it? They're such sociable birds. It's almost a shame not to put up... There he goes. There's a little female sparrow just off ski. I heard this rattling underneath her. It's almost a shame not to put up a sparrow terrace because it just gives 2 or 3 pairs a chance of hunkering down next to one another.
Yeah, well, sparrow terrace basically is one box with 3 nests in it, isn't it?
It is, pretty much. I mean, you could make more, I suppose, couldn't you? I mean, you could have a nest box, depending on how strong you are, and attempted to get the thing on the top of the ladder and fix it to the wall, but there's no reason why you couldn't have a sparrow terrace with 20 different compartments in it. But they do tend to be, the kind of classic design feature are 3 boxes, yeah. It doesn't need to be a very big space. A sparrow is a modest bird in lots of departments, and they probably feel secure off the back of that. Because naturally, they would, if they could get under the eaves of a house, several pairs together, they would.
Now, sparrow terraces now have the holes all on the one side, but that's an old one.
Right.
And I noticed she was using the side hole, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was, yeah. And I think it's possibly because the end nest box, all those nest boxes have been used, but I wonder if that end one is the most popular one because it's in the quietest corner, if you like, and the shadiest corner as well.
Yeah.
Possibly the coolest corner. I suppose the reasons that the holes are all on the same side now is because if you're sighting your bird box, then really you're looking to have it facing a certain direction. But there, what's this, north-facing now? So the whole thing is on the north-facing back of the house, isn't it? And that's absolutely fine. It wouldn't matter a toffee, really, whether those holes are in the front or in the sides of the box.
How many young would they have, each sparrow then?
Well, it's usually sort of 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And usually you'd get sort of 3 fledge, and then probably 1 or 2 might survive, or none. Sparrows tend to have a couple of clutches
Once
each
they
year.
fly, do they come back home, or do they just...
Yeah, they will come back home. Yeah, they're a homely bird, really. House sparrows don't really have a massive range from where they grow up. And I think possibly one of the reasons why house sparrow populations have declined is because they can't take off to where the food is. If they're in a space that doesn't have much feeding opportunities in the winter, say, for example,
I can hear them
then
cheeping.
they disappear.
Can you hear them?
Yeah. It's great when you can see their little heads poking out of the holes and their little yellow maws, encouraging a parent to go off and find some more forage.
Right, listen, Rich, I can't muck about now because obviously we have to get our money's worth out of you. You're only here for a day. I've got 24 videos to do.
24 videos? I did get an email last night that said, right, we're going to do all these in 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
I thought, yeah, right.
And it's absolutely fine. But,
We've got to have a cup of tea because we've been talking for a good hour
I know,
and a half
but the thing
now,
is, Rich, you've advised me on my beans. I know what to do with them, and it's just the tomatoes left, so come on.
Okay.
Oh, God, is it
Just the tomatoes?
Yeah, come on.
Are you growing tomatoes outside this year or are they indoors?
Well, I put them in here and I didn't know what to do.
They're in the greenhouse, yeah. Well, it's a safe bet, really.
So let's go in the greenhouse. I don't know whether they need watering every day or twice a day, or whether they need tying up. I don't know.
OK, we don't need to water them twice a day, but certainly in a greenhouse, it's a good idea to make sure the ground is moist. So I just check it, really. I mean, it doesn't want to be saturated, but it's never going to get saturated because in this greenhouse, especially, you've got good ventilation, but the ground will stay relatively moist. Just check, make sure you check every day, and when it's very hot, then water once a day. Why
do people, I know this is a stupid question, but why do people always grow tomatoes in grow bags? I haven't, because I didn't have one.
It's usually for the sake of ease, and they don't need a very thick substrate, which is just as well, because there's not much depth of medium of
what, you mean, so they don't need a deep
They're
root?
relatively shallow-rooted tomatoes, so, they don't need a big, thick area to go down into the ground to. And of course, grow bags are designed to have sufficient nutrient for the lifetime of a tomato plant.
Oh, right.
So yeah, it's really a kind of it was a classic invention, really, wasn't it? For the sake of ease. Yeah, there you go. Here's your bag. Here's 3 little boxes that you rip your plastic off the top of the bag, stick your tomatoes in there, and job's a good one. I mean, what I've done with grow bags in the past is I've kind of dug the grow bags into Belfast sinks and things like that, because it just offers a more aesthetically pleasing planter, So you've got the material that you need to support the tomato plant. But yeah, these guys they're probably 10 inches tall now, so still relatively small. But now they'll go bananas, and they'll start to grow exponentially. Even there's a little flower coming on that plant.
So when am I expecting the harvest? Because it's a bit steady.
Yeah, maybe August.
I mean, I come out, I've got my few leaves, but I've planted everything.
Just sow it. You're always in a rush. Yeah. You see, there's a few little self-seeding squashes here.
Oh, right.
So that's probably come out of your bokashi bucket, that little cell. You haven't planted that there, have you?
No.
So that's a little self-seeding
I have put some
squash or a
bokashi
cucumber
under
or
here.
something like that. Yeah, and that's almost certainly a seed from a squash that you've scoffed later on, already on the year.
Right, okay.
Yeah, just be mindful when these tomatoes grow, and they're going to grow. I mean, it depends what variety they are, but the chances are they might get it right up to the top of the greenhouse, which is 6 foot, over 6 foot. So they're going to get that tall, and the tops of them are probably going to bend against the roof of the greenhouse. You might need to pick out the little centre. You see, in the centre of these plants, you've got little tiny stems that are growing in the cleft of the leaf.
Yeah.
Some varieties, you have to pick those out because what they do is they compromise the fruiting energy of the plant. So you need to pick them out to make sure that you get better fruiting and a greater quantity of fruit. But I'm not sure what varieties are, because there are various bush varieties, for instance. This year I'm trying a more blight-resistant variety called Legend, which is a bush variety. It's a beefsteak tomato, but they recommend not pinching out those little shoots.
Oh.
So and other things like Gardener's Delight, for instance. I know people will argue this as well, but I think Gardener's Delight, you probably don't really need to pinch out those little centre shoots, whereas some people say definitely pinch them out, but I don't know. I mean, but certainly with some varieties it makes sense to take them out. So just be mindful, and maybe if you don't know what they are, probably pinch out 2 out of these 4 plants.
Okay. They're different varieties, but I don't know what they are. Now you can see the indecision in Heather's gardening.
Uh-huh.
Now these are Farmer Phil's knickers,
Are they?
which I have cut into strips. They were actually a classic pair of Next boxer shorts.
Were they?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've cut them into strips to act as soft ties.
Yeah.
For the
That's a really
I quite
good
like
idea.
it when
That's
I
a
come
really
in
good
the
idea.
greenhouse
Yeah, that's
to see
great.
his
All
knickers.
this reuse going on
Yes.
in the orange garden. Yeah, it's great.
So I've tied this tomato plant.
Yeah.
And then I've just tied the stuff round
in readiness.
Ready.
Readiness for when that plant gets to the top. Yeah.
But I was put off because when she told me about my beans not needing to be tied, I lost confidence with my tomatoes, so I just tied one.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's what we do. Because obviously there's no wind or anything in here, so they're not going to require the same staking.
Right.
They're not as subject to kind of blowing over and things as they might be if they're outside.
So do they need this bamboo cane at all?
It's in there now, and I should definitely leave it there, because when they do get really tall, what it will do is keep them from falling down over the path, for instance.
Right.
So yeah, when they get a little bit taller, then you can tie them in and stake them, but they're not going to suffer in the same way as they would if they're outside.
Okay. So you're happy with them?
Yeah, it's great, and I do like those ties because they've got some elasticity.
They have, yes.
Yeah, they're stretchy little ties and soft, so they're not going to cut into the.
Yes, and you can
the
think back to
when you were tugging on those little knickknacks all those years ago.
Good Lord. Off we go. Time to end the show. Is it time for a cup of tea?
I think it might be,
I think it's time for a cup of tea. Oh yes, just before we go past my veggie patch, what's been eating this, Rich?
Oh.
Look at my lettuces. What's happened to the top of them?
Oh yeah, that looks like a bit of sparrow peckage, I would say. It looks like the spuggies or chickens, yeah.
Right.
But that's bird, because you see how tatty it's been torn, and that's bird predation, either chickens or sparrows.
Right, time for tea. Let's go. Earl Grey?
That sounds like a plan. Brilliant. Because I do that Tales from the Hill podcast now.
Yes, we plugged it. Didn't I?
Did you?